Greenberg. I am a retention specialist with the Seattle Promise program. I'm at Central, I'm at Seattle Central College, and I'm co-presenting with my two colleagues today. I'll let them introduce themselves now.
Hi, everyone. I am Camara Harris-Weaver. I am a Seattle Promise Retention Specialist at North Seattle College. I'm excited to see you all here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Kendy Trinh. I am also a retention specialist for Seattle Promise, and I'm over at South Seattle College.
Thank you both. So yeah, as we said, we work with students who are in the Seattle Promise program, but we also work closely with general advisors at each of our 3 campuses. So if you're not in the Seattle Promise program, there's always someone who is at each of our 3 campuses to help you with the transfer process. And so we'll get started with an overview of what we're going to talk about today. Thank you, Kendy. So as you heard in the main session, Gina was talking about tons of different professional technical programs as well as transfer options here at the Seattle colleges. And so you can see it here, start with us, finish with them. So the best way to think about transferring and or what the pathways are at Central, or sorry, I'm going to do that a lot. I'm sorry, everybody. At the Seattle colleges is there's professional technical degrees, which are a lot of the programs that you heard mentioned in the main session in the health and medical field, as well as transfer degrees. So these are different paths to graduation. Many different professional technical degrees are 90 credits in total. So you can get the professional technical degree, move on to an associate, it'll count as an associate degree, and then you can start your career, versus transfer degrees, which we'll talk about in a second, but those are generally Associate of Science or Associate of Arts transfer degrees, and then you transfer to a 4-year college where you will major in whatever it is that you want to study, and then you graduate with a bachelor's degree. And so the 2 degrees we'll be focusing on most today in this session in regard to the health and medical field, which again, as Gina mentioned, is huge. Like there's so many careers in the health and medical field we will not be able to cover today, but we all work with health and medical students at the colleges. And so we see the Associate of Arts degree is one of the most popular degrees, which Kendy will go into a little bit more in detail in a little bit. As you can see, it's built in collaboration with the Washington universities. So many students who would like to transfer to University of Washington campuses will see that the language in our AA degree is similar to that at the University of Washington campuses. So Associate of Arts is a 90 credit degree with 3 basic sections, and it is offered at all 3 of our campuses. Here it is.
All right, so this is just like a general overview of the Associate of Arts AADTA, and it's broken up into 4 sections. As you can see, there's basic requirements, which includes your college level English class and another English class, which is more focused on like research. And then as you see here on the bottom, a QSR is qualitative. I can't remember the whole acronym, but it's basically math. So at least a college level math requirement. There's an example here is Math 107 that requires a minimum GPA of 2.0. But if as long as it's a 100 level math class, that will count towards your degree. Going down to distributions, it's broken into 3 categories. So as you see, it's 45 credits, visual, literary, performing arts, or you might hear a lot VLPA. It's basically arts and performing arts classes. So like if you're taking a ceramics or music class, that can go in there. Another thing to keep in mind is that there's 2 minimum different subjects. So it can't just be all music classes. It has to be something like humanities or let's say drawing. So different subject areas, that's what that means. Then individual cultures and societies, that's more of like social studies type of class, is history. 15 credits again. And again, you'll see a lot of acronyms such as ICS for individual cultures and societies. And then down here, and if you're in health, this is really important as well as your natural world. Natural world basically is your science classes. So if you're going into nursing, that's like biology and chemistry. There's also a course section area required to take a lab course. So that will count towards your natural world as well. So 15 credits total for that area. Lastly, you see there's an elective that's 30 credits. So a lot of students use that section as a way to get your prerequisites to the programs that you're trying to transfer to. So there's classes that you have at the university that you need. Typically, any classes that have filled up in the previous sections will end up going to elective courses or credits. And that's about 30 credits. Specifically in the Associate of Arts, DTA, or Associate Transit degree, there's special requirements that have to be met. And specifically at different colleges, they have different requirements for integrated studies. Then there's communications and global studies and US cultures. Those are special requirements, but they can overlap. So for example, if you take in a humanities class, for example, humanities 105, that would count towards your visual art performing arts area, but also will count towards like a communications section. You can just check that off. And that's basically an overview. And then when you're working with the advisor, we'll be going through each of the requirements and planning classes that way as well. Yeah. Okay. And are we missing a slide? Or no? All right. Then how to get the most from your degree. So basically a timeline, it's pretty, a lot of students don't have to follow this timeline. It's like a general timeline from like 0 to 18 credits when students are exploring their majors. One moment. I think we have a tech issue. 1 second. Where's slide 6? Oh my gosh.
I can also try and share my screen again, but it's not going to be in presenter mode.
You can go ahead and try and share your screen. I don't know why it's not letting me edit.
No problem. Let's take a look. Sorry, everybody. They did warn you all that this would happen. So, okay. So we talked about the AA, and the next degree we wanted to touch on was the AS1 degree. Can everyone see that? I will zoom in as best as I. Oh, Camara.
Just helping you out.
Thank you.
Yeah. So sorry about the technical difficulties, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us. Again, my name is Camara Harris-Weaver, so I'll be talking about the AS-1 degree, which stands for the Associate of Science Track 1 option. This is similar to the degree that Kendy just reviewed, in that it is a 2-year transfer degree, 2-year associate's degree. The difference is that the one that Kendy showed is an Associate of Arts, whereas this is an Associate of Science. Specifically, the Associate of Science Track 1. We do have other Associate of Science degree options at the 3 colleges. However, one of those options, the AS Track 2, doesn't typically align with the health and medical pathway. And so we're not going to cover that today. One other option that is unique to North Seattle College that we do offer that does lead into a health and medical pathway is the ASDTA. We won't be going over that in detail today just because it isn't offered at all 3 colleges. Again, it's only offered at North, so it's not offered at Central or South. But I just wanted to include that brief statement about the ASDTA option so that you all are aware that that is an option and something that you can talk through with a North advisor if you are attending North and interested in what that might entail. But again, I will now go into detail about the Associate of Science Track 1 option. So this is typical for students to pursue if the student is interested to go into med school down the line, or even dentistry, or veterinarian school, or pharmacy school, because before going into those schools, the student still needs to complete a bachelor's degree at a 4-year university before being able to pursue that. And so the bachelor's level major might be in something, typically in something like biology, chemistry, biochem, something along those lines. And this degree is best suited to accommodate those students. And so let's see. This top statement, I think, actually is pulled from the Associate of Arts. This is Washington's most general broad transfer degree. I would say that is with the AA, not necessarily the AS track one, but it is built to help you meet as many prerequisites as possible for most four-year degree programs that are in the health medical route, if you are going kind of pre-med, pre-veterinarian, that track way. So you'll see some similarities to what Kendy just went over, but to talk through the differences. So this first section, again, it's 90 credits total for the degree. This first section is the English and math requirements, 20 credits total. So students are still required to complete English 101. However, there are some specific higher level math requirements. Students are required to complete Math 151, which is Calculus 1, Math 152, which is Calculus 2, and then there's an option for the third math class, which could be either Math 163, which is Calculus 3, Math 146, which is an introductory statistics course, or Math 211, which is a higher level stats class. To make the decision on what class would make the most sense for you, that's something that you would talk through with your advisor based on what university you're interested in and what specific majors that you're interested in and what their requirements are. This next section is the general education requirements, which include 15 credits of VLPA and ICS courses. So students are required to complete at least 5 credits of a VLPA. Kendy went over the category for the AA. Again, this stands for Visual, Literary, and Performing Art classes. These are things like art classes, communication, humanities, foreign languages, courses like that. And then ICS for 5 credits is required at minimum, which stands for Individuals, Cultures, and Societies. Again, this is a similar category that was shown in the AA. And this requirement can be fulfilled by classes such as sociology, philosophy, psychology, history courses, things like that. This last 5 credits can be completed with either a VLPA or an ICS. So you have an option of which one you would want to take for that last 5 credits. There are some limitations with the VLPA. If you decide to take 2 VLPAs, there are some limitations with what that second one could be if you take a studio or performing art class as well as a foreign language course. So the important thing to remember now is not necessarily all the specific details, but that you would be working with an advisor about your specific classes to make sure that you're completing these requirements. The next category is major preparation, 18 credits, which is specifically to complete the chemistry sequence. This includes chemistry 161, 162, and 163. That is our full introductory chemistry sequence. And so all students who are completing this degree, the AS track 1, are required to complete that chemistry sequence. So again, that is just to emphasize that this degree is not necessarily for all students who are interested in the health medical pathway. This degree is suited for students who their major will require the chemistry sequence as well as some of these additional courses. And that's most often students who are going the pre-med or pre-pharm pharmacy route. The next category is laboratory sequence, 15 credits. There's an option of what sequence a student can take, either 3 courses of biology, including biology 211 through 213. That's our introductory biology sequence, or one of our 2 physics sequences, the first of which is the 100th level, which is an algebra-based physics sequence, and the second of which is the 200 level, 221 to 223, which is the calculus-based physics. Again, this will depend on which university and which specific major that you're interested in and what courses they require as prerequisites. I would say most often for health medical students that are completing this degree, you're required, and they do take the biology sequence most often. The last category is additional major prep for 22 plus credits. This is kind of a catch-all, a little bit similar to the previous degree from the AA, the elective category. Courses that students take that, well, I would say courses that students take that aren't counting towards these previous categories can fall into additional major prep. For example, if you're not starting at North in calculus and you start at pre-calculus, Math 141, and you then need to take Pre-Calculus 2, Math 142 before moving on to Calculus 1, those two courses, the two pre-calculus courses, would fall under additional major prep. This also leaves open the option if your particular major requires additional courses for you to take. This gives you room to take those and have it count towards your degree. So this will vary based on your university, based on your major. Another example is for students who don't have any background in chemistry, the student would need to take chemistry 139, which is a prep class before taking the chemistry sequence, and that chemistry prep class could fall under this additional major prep. So again, it's 90 credits total, and this can be a great option for some students who are interested in transferring to a four-year in a health medical major, depending on what that major is. Again, when you will have an option to connect with your advisor one-on-one and kind of go into this in more detail to find out which degree is the best fit for you based on your major of interest. This next slide is talking about the general transfer timeline. And so there is kind of a recommended process for students to take throughout their time at a community college to make the most of your time and set yourself up for success for the transfer process, because it is not simply that you complete 2 years and then after those 2 years you apply and then get into your school and your major and start that next fall. That process really begins much earlier than that. So that's what we're talking about here, is that transfer timeline. Within the student's first 18 credits, so within the first 2 quarters, the student should be focusing on choosing and exploring their major pathway. So exploring different major options. Again, let's say you're interested in med school down the line, you want to be a medical doctor and go into med school, you would want to determine what you want your major to be at the four-year university. Are you interested in biology? Are you interested in chemistry? Are you interested in biochemistry? Like figuring out what the difference is, what you're really interested in while you're taking some of those introductory courses, and deciding what you would like your major to be so that you know what degree at the college is your best fit. You can attend transfer fairs to connect with a lot of different universities at the same time, as well as create your educational plan. This is what you do with your advisor to create an individualized plan based on those kind of general degree worksheets that we just went over. Within the student's credits of 19 to 44 credits, that's when we say planning for your future. So you've chosen your major, you're exploring different universities, you've created your educational plan. Now you're getting a little bit more in depth about your plan. And so you're actually meeting with four-year college advisors to talk through your specific major of interest, what their requirements are for admission into the school, but also for admission into that major specifically, so that you're working those courses into your educational plan and making sure you're on the right track and completing things at the right pace to transfer. The next category we have here is 45 to 74 credits. So these first two categories is within your first year typically, and then if you're doing full-time, if you're doing part-time, it might be a little bit different. But then this third category, 45 credits to 74 credits, is in your second year. You're applying to your chosen school. So you're working with your Seattle College's advisor to update your educational plan based on those one-on-one meetings with the four-year college advisors that you've had. Make sure that it's all up to date and you're completing all of the requirements. You're working on the application material. So that includes the college application, the personal statement. There's lots of transfer workshops at all of the Seattle colleges to support students in that process. But that's what you'll be working on while you're completing your credits 45 to 74. And then while you're finishing up the last 15 credits, that's 75 through 90, you're really getting ready to transfer. So you're applying for your degree at Seattle colleges since you're in your last quarter, or even right before your last quarter, you can apply for graduation once you're registered for your last quarter of classes to ensure once you complete your courses with your grades, you will actually have your degree from the Seattle colleges, and that will be sent to your four-year university. You'll then also send your official transcript to your university because that is required in the application process. I will now hand it off to Kendy to talk about where can you transfer with these degrees.
So with this degree, you can transfer anywhere to the 4-year of your choosing. They always want us to know is completing a transfer degree does not guarantee admissions to all colleges and universities. You are still required to apply to the schools you choose. Basically, you still apply to the schools you choose, and then if that university does have a competitive program, for example, nursing, it does have an additional application that you have to apply to, or bio, same thing, another application for the specific program. That's why when you're working with your advisor at Seattle colleges and advisors over at the university, you really want to take classes that are going towards the prerequisites that meet the admission requirements for the programs that you're applying to. So that's what makes the process easier. Is like when you're working closely with your advisor and getting information you can from like transfer fairs and working with the admission advisors over at the university is really just to set you up for success in getting into the major in the program itself. And as soon as you know you want to transfer, just want to schedule a meeting with your Seattle College's advisor as soon as you can. And I should also note, sorry, I should also note that a lot of nursing students who want to go into a bachelor's of science in nursing typically go the Associate of Arts route just to get the prerequisites into the degree. Yeah.
Again, to emphasize, the most important next step is to work closely with your advisor to build out that educational plan that includes all the specific requirements based on your university of interest, your majors of interest, that will map out all the classes that you need to take. We'll now leave it open to questions. You can either add them into the chat or come off of mute, and we will talk through the questions.